Welcome everyone to the first SABA board meeting of 2021. And I'm going to now record attendance. I'm going to work off this little list here. So if you're present, say present or here or I or whatever you feel like. Nick Driver.
Here.
He is our advisor and joining us once again. Michael Jones, the chair, is present. Olivia Madrigal is not here yet. Mary Navas.
I'm here.
And Josh is recording. Good. I forgot to say that.
I am.
Daniel Ornelas from the staff.
Here.
Mike Rich, not here. Josh Rip.
Here.
Gershom Torres is not present. Larry Vilabi.
Here.
Okay, with Michael, Mary, and Larry, I believe we have a quorum and we can proceed. Oh, but looks like we have a guest. Ana Leonor, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. My name is Ana Leonor, and I'm one of the school counselors at SABA.
Great.
Welcome.
Thank you for joining us. Okay, that takes care of the introduction. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Mary, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Larry?
Yes.
And I vote yes also. So the agenda is approved. Now we go to public comment. Is there anybody that would like to make a comment about something that is not listed on the agenda tonight? I hear nothing, so we will move right into action items with the consent agenda. So we have the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that people would like to pull off of the consent agenda for discussion?
This is Mary. I would like to pull off the free and reduced lunch meal policy just for a few questions.
Okay. Larry, do you have anything?
No.
I don't either. So for items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4, can I have a motion to approve those 4 items that are part of the consent agenda?
So moved.
Larry?
Second.
Thank you. Larry, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mary, how do you vote? And I vote aye also. So let's move into discussion about the free and reduced lunch meal policy. Mary, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, so I know it's about the free and reduced policy, but they bring into this a lot of health care, and that's kind of why I was wondering why that's in there. And I have different spots where it talks about it. I don't need to point all of them out. If you just give me a general overview of why that information is in there, that'll work. Unless you point out some of the places.
Well, so the application packet, so part of this is to make sure that students qualify for appropriate healthcare coverage. So in the first part where it first says it, a notification that if the child qualifies for free school lunches, then the child may qualify for free or reduced health coverage. And so the reason this is included in there is to ensure that families are seeking reduced cost health coverage if they've applied for free or reduced lunch priced meals.
Okay. So if a family was looking to see what the policy was for health coverage, they would go to the free and reduced lunch meal policy?
No, basically what this is saying is make sure that you get this information. If a student were to qualify for free and reduced lunch, it's we need to notify them that they should also at least look at applying for free or reduced healthcare coverage.
Okay, and then like on page 2, it talks about WIC and how to apply for WIC. You know, so I just find it interesting that this is not that you shouldn't offer it or anything, but just I wanted to make it as accessible to your family population if they have questions. That was my only reason why asking that question. if families can find that information if they needed it. That's all.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that makes perfect sense. And I think from a policy standpoint, it's like, all right, if you know that these students qualify for free and reduced lunch, do your follow-up homework and make sure that they're qualifying for all other services that they might have access to.
So then that free and reduced is really the starting point for them to get the rest of it. So
Correct. And it really isn't telling, it's more of like, now the ball is in our court. So we say, oh, we noticed that they applied and were approved. Now we need to make sure that we're following up with them to make sure that they have at least opportunities to access some of these other services such as WIC or low cost healthcare coverage.
Okay, and then just one last question.
Mhm.
On the last page, it talks about junk food. So what constitutes junk food? I'm just curious.
We actually have a list of what constitutes junk food in
Okay.
our handbook. And I could not tell you it off. We usually have this discussion yearly, and we just, since no food is being eaten regularly on campus, I have not had that.
Okay.
Let me get back to you on that.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Just curious. Okay, those were my questions.
And so, Josh, on the in the school handbook, it has a list of items that are considered junk food, or is it just sort of a
Yeah.
general description?
We have a general description that is not an exhaustive list.
So like what, macaroni and cheese or something?
No, macaroni and cheese I think would count. I think it would be like the go-tos are energy drinks and fast food. But this is a frequent point of discussion at Saban when everyone is here about, does chocolate covered popcorn, if we have a movie night, count as junk food? I don't know.
Mhm.
Hot Cheetos.
Hot Cheetos, definitely
Oh,
a
yeah.
hot one or a popular one with our students. That would probably be considered junk food though.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve item 5 on the consent agenda?
I move approval of the free and reduced meal policy, excuse me.
I'll second. Larry, how do you vote?
Yay or yes?
And Larry, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Michael votes aye as well. So motion second passed. All right, moving right along, we now head into reports. And we'll turn it over to Mr. Rip.
All right, thank you, Michael. So first up, I wanted to give you an update on our cohort additions. I mentioned that we were going to look at this at the end of our last meeting in December. We met today and we have a list of an additional 8 students who we would like to bring onto campus. And basically what we did is we expanded our list to 16, thinking that some families may choose not to send their students to campus, some for whatever reason. And so we want to make sure that we fill in those spots. But basically, we're going to have a second cohort, meaning a total of 16 students per grade level in grades 9, 10, 11, and 12. And the reason for that is we know that students are struggling at home. It could be slow internet. It could be family issues. It could be a whole host of issues. And we want to make sure that we're providing as much opportunity for students to access learning as possible. Which is going to make a lot more sense when I show you our next slide that goes over grades from fall semester of 2020. Right now, we have not selected those students yet. Our parent engagement coordinator was making phone calls today. We should have those students confirmed by this Friday. They'll attend a safety meeting with me Tuesday evening at 5:30. And then they'll begin school on Wednesday with the rest of the students who are already in cohorts prior to the winter break. Wednesday is our first day back on January 13th. So that's our update for our cohort intervention program. Any questions about that?
No, just thank you for bringing those students back.
Okay.
Thank you
Mike?
too, but I'm going to ask a question is, does our having students on campus conflict in any way with the more stringent lockdown that Santa Cruz County went into?
No, it doesn't. Stable cohorts continue to be allowed.
Mhm.
Really, what the purple level of risk entails is that if we wanted to bring all students back on the hybrid basis, that would be prohibited. But the stable cohorts, which is what we're implementing, can continue to exist.
Right. Okay,
All right.
and now we'll go to the operations report. I don't see a name, but I'm going to suppose that's Daniel.
I still have 2 more reports that I want to.
Oh, yeah. The academic, yes.
Oh, 2 and 3.
Yeah.
Please continue.
Okay.
I wasn't ready.
So next
I was
up
jumping the
is
gun.
student academic achievement. And I'm actually going to share my screen right now. Let's go here. Can everyone see that okay?
Yes.
Yes. Well,
Excellent.
not anymore. There.
All
we go.
right, so we are comparing fall of 2019 when we had all students in the building to fall of 2020. So the first thing I thought I'd start off is, all right, how many students are passing all of their classes with our traditional pass rate of 70% or above? And so if we go back to 2019-20, which you'll see in the color red, so this would be fall 19, you can see like in 6th grade, 93% of our students were passing at the end of fall 2019. That dropped down to 66% in fall 2020. And then you can go on to 7th grade, fall 19, 67%, fall 20, 48.9%. 8th grade, we're about even. In 9th grade, again, we see that drop offs about 72%. We're passing all of their classes into fall of 19 when we're in the building. And now we're just under half of our students are passing all of their classes in our current 9th grade. In 10th grade, we actually saw an improvement, amazingly. So last year, just over half of our students were passing all of their classes. And this year, we actually jumped up. So 62% of our 10th graders are passing all of their classes this year. 11th grade, we see a drop off again, pretty substantial one. 73% of our students were passing all of their classes last year. At the end of the fall semester, this year, just barely over half. And then same thing with the seniors, 71% at the end of fall of 19. And we're at just 54% of our seniors passing or passed their fall, all of their classes the fall semester.
So that 10th grade is the anomaly because everybody else went down.
Correct.
And Josh, are we comparing apples to oranges or apples to apples?
This is apples to apples, and I'll go into details because as you all know, we changed our grade policy at the end, but we made it the cutoff the same. So did you achieve a 70% or higher, which would be a C or higher, both fall 19 or fall 20? So we didn't include students who received a pass in that 60 to 69% range in this particular.
So
table.
Josh, sorry.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So these are different cohorts of students though, right? So if we looked at the 6th graders last year, they're 7th graders this year.
That is true. That would be another way to look at it. So this is just 6th grade to 6th grade. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I meant by apples to oranges and apples to apples.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
You're not comparing the
Same student.
performance of the same students year to year. You're comparing one group of 6th graders with a completely different set of sixth graders.
That is correct.
Mhm.
So if we look at,
The cohort, would it be the same? That'd be
let's see, 19,
Well, it's roughly the same. You can look at it.
yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's, I get, there's, we always have this, like, do you compare 6 over 6th grade or do you follow the cohort? So, so in this example though, to answer your question a little bit further, you could definitely look at it, just like Larry said, and
Right.
you see it right there.
Mhm.
And the steepest drop off is from 6th to 7th grade.
Mhm.
So my concern would be those seniors and how long is your list of seniors in danger of not graduating?
It's significant, and I couldn't give you an exact number, but I would say at any type of risk at all, I would say somewhere around 10 to 20. And I think we've got a lot of services in place to help support those students. And, everyone's unique. So we're just trying to figure out what it's going to take to get the students across to the finish line.
So Josh, do you have some kind of mechanism where you give the parents of these seniors a letter that says something to the fact that, as of December 2020, your child is not on track to graduate. And unless something changes between now and June, your child will not graduate from SEBA in June. And get them to sign that so that they don't come back in June and say, what do you mean my little darling's not graduating?
We do have a letter, and we sent those out at the end of the fall semester to both the 12th graders and the 8th graders.
Perfect.
And then if I can add, I also communicate with the parents directly and the students, and we have conferences as needed to communicate that.
Is that Anna?
Yeah, that's me.
Anna.
Yes.
So when you have these conversations with the parents, what are you hearing from them? Is there a great deal of frustration saying, I'm trying to get my son or daughter to do the work and they're not? What are you hearing out there?
Pretty much that. I think, just the pandemic, it's taking a toll on a lot of our students. It's added responsibilities for some of them, having taken care of like younger siblings, others having to work, help support the family, amongst like other, things that they communicate. But, a lot of frustration, and, all we can do is keep supporting our students. And we have an amazing team that does not give up on them. Our grade level leader for 12th grade specifically, Ms. Davis, is amazing at outreaching to students. So although the list is long of students that are kind of, at that, I choose not to use the term at risk, but we call them at promise. So those students that are at promise, although the list is a little longer this year, we have an amazing support system here. So I'm confident that we'll get them through the finish line.
So Anna, when you have these conversations with the parents, is the student there with them also?
Yes.
Okay,
We usually have a meeting all together.
great. Okay.
Have you
And
previously,
Anna, oh, go ahead.
have you previously had a policy around granting kids a 5th year for special circumstances?
I think that's really rare. I've been at SEBA for almost 6 years now, and actually 6 years now in January. And I think we've maybe had like 2 5th years that I can remember. Most of them were able to get them done within the 4 years.
And given the unique circumstances of the pandemic and distant learning, or do you expect more kids to have a 5th year? Are you open to that? Or
Maybe one, maybe. It would be only one student that I would be worried about.
okay.
And we're gonna meet with him very soon.
And Anna, can you sort of, if you look at the 6th graders and then from last year to this year, well, not like 6th graders, let's take the 7th graders. 7th graders, there was close to 30% or more than 30% last year that were not passing, and that number has now dropped to 48%. Do you have a different strategy for those students who weren't being successful, were at promise last year, but not this year, versus those who were not were at promise last year and are still at promise this year? I mean, are they sort of two identifiable sort of groups of students that have sort of commonalities that require different strategies?
I think with the pandemic, like things are just like changing all the time. And I think as a group, we're just trying to figure out, best ways to outreach to some students. For some students, the one-on-one works best with them. So it's really great that this year we brought in the GLAC, so the grade level academic leads. I think they have been doing a great job at kind of being able to work a little bit more in small groups and more one-on-one with students. I think that's been a huge support system when it comes to kind of like academic intervention and working with those students during this pandemic. And hopefully, that continues once we go back into the building, having that added layer of support.
And Josh, just roughly an average, it looks like, 30%, maybe 35% of our students are at promise. And what percentage of that group are participating in the on-site instruction?
As many as are willing to attend. And so we have a metric set up that looks at grades, internet access, home issues, social emotional issues, and everything's given a weighted point value. We take all of that together. Zoom attendance is another metric, and you get a overall point value. And then we use that to decide who's going to come into the building. Beginning on January 13th, we'll have 86 spots available, and we go down that list, meaning that all of the students, like for example, there's about 43 kids who are, and which I'm going to get into later in the slide deck, failing or not received a no credit for the fall semester for all of their classes. And so they'll all be contacted. And if they're willing to come in, then they'll be there to have that support. I couldn't tell you right now what percentage of our students who are in the building are in that 30% list. I do know though that a number of our students have improved since they've been in the building. So much so that some people, the big question is that we're facing with our cohort intervention, it's a twofold. If a student comes into the building and they show improvement, even great improvement over say 4 weeks, do we say, okay, now that you've got this, we're going to send you home, or do we keep them in that seat because they're obviously succeeding there? So far, we've decided to keep them in that seat. Likewise, do we keep students who come into the building, but then for whatever reason refuse to engage or improve? Do they get to continue to have that seat if we know that if they were to go back home, they're probably just not even going to log into Zoom at all? And so, but they are also taking, a limited resource. And so that's kind of the two big questions that we always discuss when we talk about who's going to be in the building receiving cohort intervention services.
Yikes.
Yeah. But to your question, yes, everyone who is in this position of, receiving a no credit for multiple grades is going, will eventually, if they qualify on that metric, will receive a phone call inviting them to come in the building for a total of 86 spots that we have. All right, I have a few more slides here. So now we introduced the PASS. I wrote to you at the end of December about this PASS. The PASS was made to support students. And so this shows how many students received a PASS in 1, 2, or 3 or more classes in the middle school level. So we can see in the 6th grade, 23 students received 1 PASS, 7, 2 or more, and then 1 student received 3 or more passes. And so that means that their grade fell below the C, which had traditionally been the cutoff to pass a class, but we kind of lowered it down a little bit this year, given the circumstances.
The Corona pass.
The Corona. And then the high school students receiving a pass, we can see in 9th grade, there was 29 students who received 1 or more passes, 12 who received 2 or more, and 6 who received 3 or more. And then you can go up. The numbers are a little bit lower in grades 10 through 12, 18, 6 and 1 in 10th grade, 26, 9 and 1 in 11th, and 23, 9 and 1 in 12. So it did benefit some students, as you can see by those 2 tables there.
So Josh, how does the PASS figure into their GPA, or doesn't it?
Great question. It will not, if a student chooses to go to a 4-year university, they're going to need to recover that class. And so everyone that received a pass will have a conversation with us at some point in the near future to talk about the grades that they received on the report card and what that means for their future college experience. And then they'll work through that together with us to figure out a plan of action to support them.
Okay.
How about if they're going to Cabrillo?
If they're going to Cabrillo, then the pass will work.
Okay.
then here are a couple more tables. There's a lot of different ways you can look at this. So here's fall 19 to fall 20 again, percentage of students with 1 or more Fs. And so we can see that the number of students with 1 or more no credit is actually lower in many circumstances. It's the same in 6th grade, slightly lower in 7th, significantly lower in 8th, about the same in 9th, lower in 10th, lower in 11th, and about the same in 12th when we compare fall 19 to fall 20. But then what we do see is that the number of students who are failing multiple courses, that shoots up. And so we can see that half, so 3 out of their 6 courses, we had 8 classes last year. So we would see that there's a spike. And so about 1/5 of our students in grades 7, 8, 9, 10 are failing half of their courses, or no crediting half their courses. And that's a significant jump from the fall 19-20. And then you can see over here in grade 12, we went from 5.4%, or if you want to do apples to apples, 9.4% to 25% this current school year.
Wow.
Percentage of students failing all of their classes. So this luckily is zeros in a lot of areas, but then we did see a little bit of a increase in grades 9 and 10, and a lot of it's just, students are disengaged and having a hard time succeeding. So 6% of our 10th graders didn't receive no credit for all of their classes, 4.9% in 9th grade, and then 2.2 in 7th grade. And then percentage of students receiving, percentage of students with no credit, semester 1. And so we can compare, this is 1 no credit is blue, red is 2 or more no credits, and then yellow is 5 or more no credits. And so what you see there is like, okay, there's a bunch of different ways you can break this down. One way to talk about it would be that about 43, 45 of our students received 5 or more no credits across grades 6 through 12. So those are the students of greatest concern, and we've got to make sure that they succeed when they come back here for the second semester. Another way you can look at it is what percentage of your students received 1 or more no credit, and that was 161. Michael, you referenced this earlier. It was about 30% of our student population. So that, so then my last slide here is our plan to support struggling students in spring 20. Students who received a no credit will explain the impact on their GPA and graduation status, meaning that it won't hurt their GPA, but they still need to recover that class to graduate from SABA. So that's they have to recover that credit essentially if it's a graduation requirement to be able to walk across the stage with their classmates. We'll provide credit recovery options as appropriate, likely to be, we'll offer some type of program over the summer, and we're still figuring out what exactly that's going to look like. And then explore strategies to succeed in spring 2020, whether it was internet issues and figuring that out with the students, providing more in-building support access, which I mentioned earlier, connecting them with our grade level academic coordinators, connecting them with our counselors, such as Anna. As you can tell, she's really involved with all of this. And then teacher to student check-ins, we're really gonna work on that. And then for the students who received a pass, it's basically the same thing, except that for the first one, if they get the pass, they can still graduate from SABA and receive a high school diploma with that pass, but that pass will prevent them from being eligible for the 4-year college or university. And so we'll make that really clear to all the families so they can make an informed decision about whether they want to retake that class.
Josh, what's the, in terms of work responsibility, what's the expectation at SABA for teachers checking in with their students outside of the school day? students slash families?
That's one thing that I think we emphasize, but we could do better with. And it's also, we don't have like a specific, say, policy. We obviously want all teachers to support their students the best they can, but in terms of like how many phone calls you must make per day or per week or something like that, we don't have anything written down like that. That's an interesting question. Could you be more specific about what you were thinking about with that?
Well, it's basically that, you know, as a condition of working at SEBA, are you expected to contact, you know, 5 of your students every week in the evening at home? Is it, you know, was there an expectation like that?
Currently,
what I'm hearing
no.
from you is that there's not.
Yeah, currently no, but I appreciate that's something we'll have to look into because that is something that is an area we can improve upon.
Well, I won't go into war stories, but never mind.
Okay. All right, so that is our look at student academic performance comparing this year to last year.
Thanks for doing that, Josh.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
That was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, I would suspect that your data is not very different from most schools like yours this year. It's a tough year for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Larry. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, Larry, and that's what I tried to communicate in my message to, because when I read that certain whole districts were passing students with a 45%, I think with the D, it was really kind of eye-opening to see that that's the point
Yeah.
that they've gotten to. So I think everybody's kind of tackling this issue in different ways, and I don't know that there's one perfect way to solve it, and hopefully we can get all vaccinated and get back to this school as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
But that remains to be seen.
Josh, have you seen anywhere where the PVSD is articulating their approach?
I have not.
Okay. You can talk about the enrollment attendance report?
Yes, let me pull that up really fast. Just had it open and it disappeared. My computer is freezing on me. Can we go to Daniel and come back? I can present the enrollment and attendance report at the end of that.
All right. We'll move on to Daniel.
All right. So I have the financial update. DMS provided us with the DMU with actuals from November or all the way through November 30th, so July 1st to November 30th. It basically just touches on our actuals through November 30th. Our expenditures appear to be closely aligned with budget projections. We're through 42% of the school year. If you do it by percentage, we are at 32% of revenues. Most of that's typically comes in the later part of the year. This year, we're likely to see deferrals. We're on top of that with DMS. With expenditures, we are slightly below that 42% threshold. Our cash flow projections show that our lowest point for cash in the school year will be in June, where we have roughly 4 months of cash on hand. So that's looking good. Everything with our budget seems to be looking good so far. We are monitoring some things that we may or may not have to adjust at the second interim budget.
What page
Some
are
of
you
those
looking at?
include. I touched roughly on page 3, where I talked about the revenues being 32%
Yeah.
of the budget so far.
Yep.
Expenditures being 36. I skipped over to the cash flow just to present on the cash. The cash flow is on page 7. If you look on the June budget,
Oh, yeah.
you'll
Got
see
it.
down below the days of cash on hand. But other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions for any of the detail from pages 4 through 6.
So I have a question on the revenue side. On page 4, you talk about the ASB funds. Now, is that kept in a separate fund, Fund 8, which has to be set up, I think, by this?
No, it's actually, so this object code is one that we use for local revenues. So for example, somebody comes to the building and pays for a Chromebook repair, or in a normal year, they pay for a uniform. So local revenues that we take in this case, DMS accounted our in lieu of Prop 39 settlement, for which we receive $150,000 a year from Pajaro Valley Unified. So out of that 165,000 that's budgeted, 150,000 of that is from that settlement. So I actually talked to DMS today, and I'm hoping we can get that into a separate object code, so that it kind of, it doesn't look like we have $165,000 of revenue through ASB, which we don't.
I was going to say, you guys are doing great.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that might have come from, if it were to be the case. So then the other 15,000 of that revenue line item is typically, just uniforms, Chromebook repairs, other small things through ASB.
Um,
Well,
Danny, just a follow-up question on that. Where does when foundation money gets transferred in or paid for things for students or teachers, where does that show up? Is that the same line, or is that a different line?
I think it might be that line, but typically the foundation is audited on its own line
So
accounting.
it typically doesn't transfer any money into the Saba Schools account. It just pays for things outright.
that's what it
Yes.
sounds.
Thanks.
So I know there's a GASB, I forget what the GASB rule is, but you'll have to start incorporating ASB revenue and expenditures for this year and set up a separate fund. And I don't know, being a chartered, you'll still have to do that because it's GASB, right? Okay.
We actually approved a
Yes.
policy on that particular subject when we approved that
Fiscal procedures.
fiscal procedure manual.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it was in there. Okay. Okay, let me see what other, I don't think I had any more questions.
Daniel, is that all from you?
I don't have any other questions.
That's all I have. If anybody has any questions, please feel free.
Oh, you know,
Josh,
I
are
have
you?
a question, sorry. And I know it's probably.
No worries, I'm ready.
The new stimulus package that's coming out where you get $450 per ADA. I know there's still a lot of information that we need to get. Is there any sense if you guys are going to apply for it? I mean, because you have kids in school, so.
I'm
you know,
not sure. I think
just thought-
we're
sorry.
working with.
Sorry, go ahead. I just thought about
Yeah, we just checked in with DMS today. We're gonna wait for more news to come from the governor's budget that's coming Friday,
Mhm.
and then I think they're gonna participate in one of the updates from school services. So after that, we're gonna be meeting with them and figure out what we qualify for, and what impact that might have on our budget, and likely make that change at the second interim budget.
And now that I think about it, that $450 per ADA is attributed to K3 and K6.
Well, okay, that was what I was
Right.
gonna say. There's stimulus money that's $500 per student, and then there's a separate California fund that is what you just described, Mary.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm talking with the other one and I just answered my own.
Okay.
Have you guys had any discussions about whether you're going to go for another PPP loan?
We would not, because we did not lose 20% of our revenue,
25%.
25% of our revenues.
Got it.
Great questions.
Okay, if there are no other questions for Daniel, Josh, are you
Yeah,
ready for number 3?
my computer unfroze. Yes, I am. So
Do we have to approve the financials? No, it's just information, right?
just
It's
report.
just information.
Thank you.
All right, so this one's shorter. This looks at attendance. So what percentage of our students were logging on to Zoom? And we're comparing Q1, mid quarter 2, and end of quarter 2. So end of quarter 2 is over the last 4 weeks of quarter 2. And so what we see is that in middle school, we had a slight dip in mid quarter 2, and then we came back up over the last 4 weeks, and we got back up to 92% of the students attending 80% of their meetings. In 7th grade, we see that dip as well, 86 to 82, and then come back up to 90. And then in 8th grade, we were at 91, dipped to 84, and then we came back up to 88. And then this
Wow.
is, excuse me, go ahead.
I was just saying, wow.
Middle school students attending half of their classes, then we're getting to, which we should be, closer to 100%. So 97, 197, 93, 98, 100, 96, 100, 99. So we are seeing all of the students sometimes, but not, I think I'm proud of these numbers really, but I think we can always do better. And then in grades 9 through 12, we see in Q1, we started off with 63% of students attending 80% of their classes. That's 10 out of 13 classes that they have in the course of a week. They have 3 classes a day. And then we got up to 82% by the end of semester 1. 10th grade, similar trajectory, 72% in quarter 1. We're up to 85 by the end of the semester. Grade 11, we're up to 91% of students attending 80% of their classes, and in grade 12, 84%. I think the reason for this trajectory is a combination of factors. We have a great attendance team that meets regularly. We make phone calls, follow up with students, do home visits, send letters, even had the district attorney involved with a couple students, which actually sounds really serious, but it was a really positive conversation. And I also think that just with the semester closing out, the students sensed a little bit of pressure of, they need to do all they can to pass their classes before the semester finishes.
It's nice to see that trajectory. It is.
Yeah,
That's impressive improvement.
We hopefully will continue to maintain those numbers to start off the second semester. That was one thing that I really wanted to emphasize, was if we were going to have this new cohort, since everyone's starting as fresh, we want to have them all starting on a strong footing and not digging themselves a hole before they come into the building. And then high school students attending half of their Zoom classes. By the end of the quarter 2, we got to nearly 100%, 98% in 9th grade, 94 in 10th, 99 in 11th, and 95 in 12th. So that is our Zoom attendance.
Great.
All right.
Any questions for Josh? Hearing none, we'll move on to the strategic plan review.
Josh, do you happen to have something you can share on that on the screen, or do you want me to share it? Actually, I'm on a friend's computer, so I'm not sure I have it on this computer.
So let's see here. Do you want me to just pull up this strategic plan, Nick?
Yeah, I was thinking that we would just go over the plan, since we haven't looked at it in a few months. But just the initial section, just to refresh people's memories, and to also give you all guys a chance to review it in between meetings. So just bring it up now, and then it'll be refreshed and you can go over it, and then we can potentially discuss it at a future board meeting, or just I'll give a couple of prompts if you want to be thinking about it over the the next couple of months. This is something that we do, or we had planned to do every couple of months. As you may remember, we completed the strategic plan and you approved it at, I believe, the June board meeting, if not the July. No, I think it was the June board meeting. So even though we have in the plan called for a quarterly review by the board, obviously you've been busy implementing a lot of what has been written in the plan, and so congratulations. Many of those were also incorporated into the goals that Josh and the rest of the staff, but especially Josh, has had a school put in the goals for the school as a whole, and also his. So you've been faithfully implementing a lot of what we wrote in the plan. So that is one way of sort of ongoing monitoring. So we don't have to look at the plan now. I just wanted to report back on that because we said we would. We can do that with more fidelity at a future meeting if you want, or I can just keep going. What do you think, Josh?
I mean, I can pull up the document now. I'm wondering if it might make more sense to postpone this to a future meeting where we could get something into a slide deck.
Yep.
Have a more focused conversation.
Yeah, that might make sense. And sorry for the miscommunication. I thought we were just going to go through this the first part of it, but I think you're right. It makes sense to do it as a slide deck presentation.
Alrighty. I'd like to recognize, I just noticed that looks like Gershom has joined us. So welcome, Gershom.
Hello, everybody. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt when I came in, but I was kind of in the middle of cooking, and then all of a sudden I realized that I was late. I'm very sorry.
Oh, it's great that you got here. So thank you. Okay, so we'll come back to the strategic plan review at the next meeting.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sounds good. Okay. Well, going on with Nick to the board trading segment and board recruitment. And Nick, back to you.
Thanks. So this is less of a training and more of just messaging, and I'm really happy, as you guys may have seen, to go on the website over the last couple of days and see that the messaging document that's in your agenda packet is up on the website. The first thing that anybody does when they go to the website is they get a big extra button to say, do you want to apply as a board member? And here's how, and here's why, and here's who to contact. So great work to the SEBA staff for making sure that that messaging document kind of in its entirety goes up on the website, and so that you can very easily click on it and see what the requests are for board members, and then you can easily click another button and go ahead and apply, or contact Michael for more information about how to apply. So congrats to the SEBA staff for getting that up front and center on the website, and really, if you haven't had a chance to go to the website recently because you've gotten to this meeting in another way, I encourage you to do so, because it looks great, and I think it will be it'll be helpful in getting the word out to a greater number of people.
Well, I haven't gotten any emails yet. Daniel, do you have any way of, and if you might tell us if anybody has, expressed interest, but do we have a way of telling how many people click on the button? Do you have those kind of metrics?
Well, I can't share names, but no, we have a way to, I think, check on the clicks. So I'll check in with Mike Rich to see if we've had any sent in, and then choose that engagement piece.
Yeah, I wasn't so interested in the individuals, but just to see if people are looking at that and saying, oh, that looks interesting, click. That would be an interesting metric to keep track of.
Yeah, you should be able to
We can-
find that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, our website in the past has kind of just existed out there in space with, I don't think, a lot of traffic. In fact, I'd like to just see what the traffic increase has been, but we've been putting a lot more onto that site this year, just given the pandemic and all the associated circumstances. But I feel like more and more people are clicking on that. And like, for example, the notice for all our board meetings has been on there consistently. So hopefully we'll see an uptick in that and maybe we'll get some recruiting through that.
Is there
Yep.
anything that a parent has to do that involves using the website?
I mean, I think you can use that website as a resource if you're like, hey, what are the events coming up, or how do I contact a particular teacher or me? But there isn't anything where you'd have to go on to that site regularly. I'd actually kind of be interested to hear, Gershom, I know you're on right now. Do you go on to the Save a Schools website at all as a parent?
Honestly, we don't, like me and my wife, we usually rely on the text messages that come in, or emails. I could tell you that at the beginning, I did go to the website and then there was a few things missing, and I'm sorry right now I can't recall what they were that I couldn't find on the website, and then I kind of gave up on it. So honestly, I haven't got back since, Anthony went into 6th grade. But I remember I tried going into the calendar, I think, and I couldn't really find, the specifics of the events that I was trying to look for. But
That's
yeah,
good
so
feedback.
it's a
That's
while
really
back.
good feedback. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we have a Google Calendar that we do update that feeds directly into the calendar on our website. But I think there's definitely a lot more that we can do, and I wonder if, Josh, part of our beginning of the year procedures might include, going and getting familiar with the website for our families, and possibly, especially in the circumstances that we have this year, pushing our online registration stuff onto the site so that we have people more likely to be engaged with the website.
Which we are doing and is on there, and we have gotten applications. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Daniel.
It'd be sort of neat if, I'm sorry, go ahead, Nick.
No, I was just going to move on to the document that's attached to the agenda. So go ahead, Michael.
I was just going to say, if there was something that parents had to do, that they could only do on the web page, so they were, on some regular basis, either monthly or quarterly, would be going to the web page and hopefully being entranced by, that button or perhaps other buttons that would lead them to other areas. I was thinking, I know some charter schools have requirements for volunteer hours or suggestions for volunteer hours, and the parents have to, maintain a log about how much time they spent and what they did. I don't know if SABA has anything like that, but there's something that would sort of require them to go on to the website on a regular basis, where they could then be, sort of attracted to other areas, and then have, the ability to measure those metrics to see what the traffic looks like.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, especially in the lens that it would promote more people to be on the website and see and be more engaged with some of the things that we have up there. If that means more participation in some of our meetings and more parent participation in general, that's really great. It's a great idea.
Great.
So just briefly, is following on from those comments about the website. Obviously, the other part of this is in the attachment that's on the agenda is these other two templates that any of you can use to send out either via social media or just via email, or you can use them as talking points to call people up if that's what you're interested in doing. I wanted to make sure that you had something that was that you knew was not a final draft. It was something that you can use as a draft if you want, to craft into something that's more personalized. But there's, they're slightly different. Basically the tone and the wording are slightly different from the one that's on the website, but they're largely the same. And hopefully it will give you the kind of the tools to be able to say to anybody that you're contacting, this is what it looks like, not just from your own personal point of view, but also from what the job duties are for you, as we have outlined in the template. So this is also this quote unquote training is also just a reminder that that the best people to find new board members are existing staff and board members, the people on this call in this meeting, and to just check in, really, to ensure that that this is still top of mind, or if it's not top of mind because we've all been on break, that we put it back to the top of your inboxes.
Yeah, it's a good time to remind people that my goal as chairperson is to add 2 people to our board by June. So please, staff and board members, use this information that Nick has provided so that we can meet my goal.
Yeah, and just to put it in the context of the success of the school, when we go over the strategic plan next month, and one of the things that I was about to highlight this month was really how successful you all have been in so many aspects or facets of the strategic plan, and therefore the schools, the school as a whole, the success of the school as a whole. And governance is obviously a key part of that. It's not yet as far along as some of the other aspects that are really going really well, but it's something that I feel very confident that will be complete by June. As Michael said, I think that goal is not a difficult one if everybody's pitching in a little bit.
Very good. Any questions for Nick?
Nope.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you, Nick.
we're starting the year off very well. It's now 6:29. So that's great. An hour early. Any other items that people want to see on the next board meeting agenda? Okay.
I can think of, or maybe, maybe just an update from the governors. I'm going to one of the governor budgets things, but maybe an update just so the rest of the board members can have that information as well.
Absolutely.
First.
Alrighty. Good. Well, thank you all for being here tonight. Josh, do you have any last words?
No, besides my gratitude to all of you for attending, and thank you.
Thanks to the staff for being here, and thanks to the board members for being here. And can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Mary.
Second.
Thank you, Larry. Michael votes in favor of the motion to adjourn. Gershom, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. And Mary, your vote?
Aye.
And Larry?
Aye.
It's unanimous. Thank you very much, and see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey, guys.